Picture this. You walk into a room.
Oh, I already know where this is going.
Right, like maybe it's a networking event or a family gathering or just a really, really crowded coffee shop.
Or even a Zoom call.
Yes, exactly. Think about the last time you were on like a 45-minute video call where you weren't even presenting. You're just sitting there completely silent.
But your face is running an absolute marathon.
Doing the whole pleasant listening routine, you're nodding, raising your eyebrows, projecting interest.
Right.
And by the time you log off or, take your coat off at that party, before you've spoken a single syllable of substance, you can already feel it.
The exhaustion.
This invisible, immediate, crushing pressure to broadcast how you are doing. Suddenly, you're just utterly exhausted. Not from talking, but literally just from the unspoken demand to be readable to everyone else in the room.
Yeah, and we rarely question that specific flavor of exhaustion,
Yeah.
because the water we swim in culturally tells us it's mandatory. We are conditioned from childhood to believe that this constant availability, this continuous real-time broadcasting of our internal state is just the baseline rent we pay to exist around other human beings.
But what if it isn't? What if you could just, opt out of that lease entirely?
Well, that's what we're looking at today.
Exactly. Today, we are going on a deep dive into some absolutely fascinating source material. We've got a stack of excerpts here exploring something called the law of nondisclosurement.
It's a wildly countercultural text.
It really is. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore a truly radical idea presented in these pages, which is the idea that you simply do not owe the world access to your inner life.
Yeah, the text lays out a thesis that just completely flips our social assumptions upside down.
Yeah.
Human culture treats mutual legibility,
Mm.
meaning the act of constantly reading others and offering yourself up to be read by them, as the absolute default setting. Like, if you're in the room, you're in the game. But this material argues for what it calls sovereign interiority. It's this understanding that your emotional weather is your own private property.
I love that phrase, emotional weather.
Yeah, and that true autonomy actually means knowing you have the right to choose when to keep your portals closed.
Okay, let's unpack this because it honestly blew my mind. To understand why this concept of keeping your portals closed is so revolutionary, we first have to look at the invisible contract we are all unknowingly signing every single day.
The fine print of human interaction.
Exactly. So the text calls this constant unconscious revealing of your interior state disclosure. It's how your joy, your grief, your anxiety, or even just your distraction leaks out.
Through your posture, the microtension in your jaw, your breathing rhythm.
Right, long before you even open your mouth. It's like walking around with your biological Bluetooth set to discoverable 24/7.
That is the perfect analogy.
You're constantly pinging the room, and the room is pinging you back.
And the source calls the result of that perpetual pairing mutual semblance.
Mutual semblance.
Yeah, it is the shared energetic field that materializes the second two people face each other and start generating meaning from what they perceive.
Right.
And society tells us this mechanism is completely normal.
Right.
That it's entirely necessary for empathy, respect, and trust. Because the assumption is, if I can't read you, how can I trust you?
Right. And that brings me to a huge point of friction I had when I first read this.
I bet I know what it is.
I have to play devil's advocate here for you, the listener, because my immediate reaction was, wait a minute, isn't shutting off your Bluetooth and retreating from this just is, avoiding people?
Right.
Isn't this just an intellectualized excuse for dissociation or being antisocial or just giving people the cold shoulder?
It's the most common reaction, and the text anticipates that exact pushback. It draws a massive, heavy line between pathology and sovereignty.
Okay, how so?
Well, practicing non-disclosement is not pathological avoidance. It's not hiding from the world because you're terrified of it, and it's certainly not rooted in shame.
Right.
Dissociation is a psychological disconnect from yourself, right? You're fleeing your own body because the present moment is too overwhelming. But this law is the exact opposite.
It's staying in.
Exactly. It is the active, conscious choice to remain deeply seated within the sanctuary of your own experience. You aren't checking out of reality. You're actually checking all the way in.
Wow, okay.
But you are refusing the external demand to be mirrored, managed, or interpreted by the collective. Your living complexity does not automatically belong to the room just because you walked into it.
Okay, that distinction is crucial. So you're staying in your body, but you're closing the broadcast window.
Precisely.
So if we are constantly leaking our inner lives, where exactly is the leak happening? Like, what are the physical mechanisms keeping us locked into this discoverable state?
The text zeroes in on what it calls the portals of legibility,
And those are?
specifically our eyes and our faces.
Ah, okay.
What's fascinating here is the sheer biological reality of these portals. It's not just a metaphor. Let's start with the eyes, right? Across human traditions, meeting someone's gaze carries massive social weight.
Yeah, making eye contact is a big deal.
But neurologically, making eye contact is never a neutral event. Looking into another person's eyes opens a literal two-way neurological channel. The moment gazes meet, the social cognition and threat assessment systems of your brain just light up like a Christmas tree.
And that takes real physical energy. The text emphasizes that your body is processing all this relational data before your conscious mind even catches up.
Yep, it's instantaneous.
Your amygdala is firing, assessing their intentions, calculating their mood, figuring out your hierarchical relationship to them, and all in a fraction of a millisecond.
And then add the human face to that equation,
Oh, man.
which is arguably the most sophisticated communication dashboard in the biological world. When you look at someone's face, you are bombarded with hundreds of micro-expressions and involuntary muscular reactions.
It's overwhelming when you really think about it.
It is. But crucially, and this is where mutual semblance locks in, you are simultaneously offering your own face as a readable surface in return.
Right.
You become a mirror that mirrors back. You enter what the text calls the mirror world.
But stepping out of that mirror world feels almost impossible without being, like, incredibly awkward.
It definitely takes practice.
The text introduces this concept of the withdrawal. It dictates letting your gaze soften, moving it past faces, maybe settling on the middle distance or the floor ahead of you. But the key phrase it repeats over and over is doing this without any issue. And honestly, I struggled with that. How do you withdraw from someone's gaze without it feeling like a rejection?
Yeah, without any issue is the operative clause there. It means executing a clean withdrawal. It is not about storming off, rolling your eyes, or deploying the silent treatment as a weapon.
Because those are all communicative.
Exactly. Those are all highly communicative acts. They are just aggressive ones.
So what is a clean withdrawal then?
A clean withdrawal is purely an internal shift. There is no drama, no coldness, no social rupture generated. You are simply softening your perimeter and quieting the muscular tension in your face.
Okay.
You are withdrawing from the invisible interpersonal weather system without physically leaving the room. It registers to others not as hostility, but just as a quiet neutrality.
Okay. A quiet neutrality. I can picture that. But let's be real. Constantly managing this soft perimeter in a crowded open plan office or, during a busy commute is tough.
Very tough.
If the social world demands this constant, exhausting exchange of eye contact, where can we go to actually experience zero demand?
Well, the source material says the law of non-disclosement has a very strict jurisdiction.
Yep.
Inner nature and mother nature.
Yes, let's talk about this.
This raises an important question about how our environment dictates our legibility. Let's look at inner nature first.
Okay.
The text defines this as the pre-verbal, pre-social intelligence of your own body. It is your somatic truth, the quiet animal part of you.
Like your gut feeling.
Exactly. Your inner nature knows intimately when you are too full, too tender, or just too overwhelmed to be available for mutual disclosure. It's the internal authority that whispers, I need to be unseen right now.
And then Mother Nature is that inner nature extended outward.
Yes.
There is a line in the text that is just so beautifully poetic, I have to share it verbatim. It says, "The forest does not look at you. The river does not require your gaze."
It's a gorgeous thought.
It hit me like a ton of bricks. It is so liberating to realize that nature is completely alive, completely vibrant, and yet it demands zero legibility from you. You can't perform for a pine tree.
You really can't. And humans have historically understood this on a very deep level. The text connects this lack of demand to ancient contemplative traditions.
Oh, right, the historical context.
Yeah, think of the desert fathers heading out into the barren wastes, or the forest-dwelling sages in the Upanishadic tradition, or indigenous vision quests.
So they weren't just running away because they hated society.
Far from it. They sought out nature not as an escape, but for pure contact. They wanted contact with an environment, a living belonging, that didn't require a human face to receive it.
Wow.
In the forest or the desert, the continuous, exhausting demand of the social mirror completely ceases to exist. You could be fully present with the world around you and entirely interior at exactly the same time. The trees aren't trying to pair with your Bluetooth.
I love that. The trees don't have Bluetooth. Okay, so performing for a pine tree is impossible, which is deeply relaxing. But we spend most of our time in grocery stores and offices, not ancient forests.
Unfortunately.
Right. But the text argues that tapping into this inner nature, even in a crowded room, isn't just a mental trick. It actually changes our physical biology.
It does.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The text gets into the actual biological return on investment here, specifically focusing on something called the ventral vagal circuit.
Oh, yes.
Explain to us what that machinery is doing, because I know you love this part.
Oh, this is easily my favorite part of the source material. The biology here is astounding.
Okay.
We have to talk about the vagus nerve.
Oh, okay. Lay it on us.
It's basically an information superhighway running from your brainstem down through your face, your heart, and into your gut.
A huge part of the nervous system.
Exactly. And the ventral vagal circuit is a specific evolutionary branch of this nerve associated entirely with social bonding and feeling safe.
Okay.
It is physically activated and sustained through making eye contact, recognizing facial expressions, and tuning your ear to human voices.
Huh.
It's what allows us to co-regulate. Now, under normal circumstances, this is a beautiful, highly adaptive human trait.
But running that superhighway constantly has a cost, right?
A massive metabolic cost. The text highlights that running this circuit is biologically expensive.
Wow.
Keeping your eyes darting around, reading the room, micromanaging your facial muscles to look approachable, pacing your heart rate to match the vibe, it literally burns physiological fuel.
So it's not just in our heads, it's actually physically draining.
Yes. For highly sensitive people or introverts, it is a chronic, devastating drain. Practicing non-disclosement, consciously dropping the social mask, gives that nervous system circuit permission to power down.
That sounds amazing.
It provides a state of conscious interior rest that is qualitatively completely different from sleep.
Yeah.
You are awake, but you are taking your social engagement machinery entirely offline.
That makes so much sense. It's like closing 50 tabs on your web browser.
Exactly.
You're still using the computer, but the battery stops draining in the background.
Yes.
And when you stop directing all that energy outward, the text says you get a massive boost in a biological function called interoception.
Right, interoception.
Yeah.
This is your body's ability to sense its own interior landscape.
Like feeling your stomach grumble.
That, but also feeling your heartbeat without touching your pulse, noticing your breath, sensing the subtle rising currents of emotion in your gut.
Oh.
When your attention is permanently locked onto the mirror world, trying to read everyone else, this capacity atrophies. You literally stop feeling yourself from the inside because all your sensory bandwidth is focused on reading the outside.
So non-disclosement clears that channel.
It clears the channel completely.
So if I clear my own channel, what happens when someone else walks into the room radiating absolute panic or stress?
Right.
Like, am I still vulnerable to catching that? Because the text talks about emotional contagion and mirror neurons.
You're hitting on a really important point. The human nervous system is designed to resonate. If someone walks in radiating anxiety, your mirror neurons, which are the cells in your brain that mimic observed behavior, will start firing.
So you just automatically copy them.
Basically, your facial muscles might slightly tighten to match theirs, and suddenly your brain says, I guess we're anxious now. You catch their distress like a colt.
That happens to me all the time.
Right. But practicing non-disclosement creates a semi-permeable membrane. It's not a rigid wall, but a membrane. It allows you to notice their anxiety without your biology automatically syncing up to it. It's a fundamental practice of energetic hygiene.
Energetic hygiene, which plays perfectly into the text's distinction between processing an emotion and performing an emotion.
Yes.
This was a huge aha moment for me, but the mechanics of it are wild. Let's talk about the difference there.
The mechanics are what make it so profound. Processing difficult emotional material, let's say a wave of grief or sudden anger, is a biological cycle. The amygdala fires, the body flushes with hormones, and ideally, the wave peaks and subsides. But that natural cycle is profoundly disrupted when there are faces around you that require management.
Because the second you realize someone is watching you be sad, your brain shifts gears.
Exactly.
You start managing how sad you look, or you worry about making them uncomfortable, or you try to look brave. Like, I'm fine, really.
Yes, and exactly what happens biologically there is your prefrontal cortex, the executive functioning part of your brain, hijacks the process.
It takes over.
It says, wait, we have an audience, we need to monitor our output. That is performing an emotion. And when you perform it, the natural emotional cycle is interrupted.
It doesn't get to finish.
Right. It loops, it truncates, it gets stuck in your body because the executive function won't let the amygdala finish its job.
Wow.
But when you maintain a state of non-disclosement, when you withdraw your awareness from the social mirror, the emotional material can move through the body on its own organic timeline.
So it actually passes.
Yes, processed emotion integrates and resolves.
Mm.
Performed emotion just loops endlessly.
Wow. Okay, so all of these internal benefits, the nervous system rest, the cleared interoception, the clean emotional processing without the executive function hijacking it, they all sound incredible.
They are life-changing.
But I have to push back a little harder here.
Go for it.
We still have to live in a society, you know? We have families, coworkers, partners. If I'm constantly protecting my interior membrane, resting my gaze past people's faces, and refusing to engage in mutual semblance, aren't I just going to become an isolated robot?
That is the fear.
Does doing this make us terrible, emotionally unavailable friends?
It's the most logical fear to have, but the text introduces what it calls the ultimate paradox of this practice. If we connect this to the bigger picture, non-disclosement doesn't destroy connection.
Okay.
It actually makes you infinitely better at it.
I have a hard time wrapping my head around that. How does pulling away and looking past people make you better at connecting with them?
Consider the alternative. A person who never practices non-disclosement is entirely dispersed across the social field.
Disperse.
Yeah, they're constantly leaking out into the mirror world, pinging every Bluetooth device in range. That means they are partially in contact with everyone, but fully, deeply in contact with no one.
Oh.
They don't have the gathered, rooted interior that actual profound presence requires.
Oh, I see. Because they are exhausted by the constant subconscious performance, they don't have any real fuel left in the tank for the moments that matter.
Exactly, they're running on fumes.
Yeah.
But if you gather yourself, if you fiercely protect your interior sanctuary during the mundane moments of your day,
Like at the grocery store.
right, then when you do choose to make eye contact with your partner, or when you do choose to offer mutual semblance to a friend in need, you are giving from an intact, fully present, fully resourced self.
That is a completely different kind of presence.
The gaze becomes a genuine offering of connection, rather than just an automatic, drained default setting.
You are consciously choosing to open the portal rather than just walking around with the door blown off the hinges.
That's a great way to put it.
So what does this actually look like in daily practice? Say I'm walking through the office to get a coffee. The text gives some very practical how-tos. It says it's about maintaining a face that is neutral and open. You aren't performing an exaggerated smile, but you aren't scowling either.
Right. You aren't projecting coldness.
It registers to the people passing you as quiet or still, but not unwelcoming. You are simply at rest.
And you practice resting your gaze slightly past faces, maybe looking at the doorway you're walking toward.
Yeah.
You move through crowded rooms, but you keep your interior as your primary dwelling place. It really just comes down to remembering.
Remembering what?
Remembering that you are an interior, sovereign being first, before you are a communication device for the social world.
So what does this all mean for the listener?
Well, I think it means a fundamental shift in how we move through the world.
It means we are allowed to step out of the mirror world. Our emotional weather is our own. We don't have to constantly broadcast it, and we don't have to automatically absorb everyone else's.
Exactly. To you listening, think about this the next time you feel inexplicably drained after a day of supposedly simple, pleasant interactions. Remember, the massive invisible labor your face and your nervous system have been doing just to keep the room comfortable. You are allowed to give yourself permission to close the portals. You do not owe the world constant access to your interior.
Such a powerful takeaway. I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder today, building on everything we've unpacked from this text.
Let's hear it.
Consider your daily commute tomorrow, or your next walk through a busy grocery store. What hidden creative ideas or quiet, brilliant intuitions might finally bubble up to the surface of your mind if you completely stop spending subconscious energy trying to manage how strangers perceive your resting face?
That's a beautiful question. Until next time.